Good morning, lovely people. I haven't really done a check-in in a little bit. And I know I said I would be consistent, and I'm definitely always working on that one. So I thought I would share this morning. I'm actually writing out some new affirmations, and I generally would reflect on these things regularly. So I feel that the things that I'm telling myself or the things that I want to affirm are really quite emotionally and sometimes logically attached to what my life is like at the moment. And for those of you that haven't done affirmations, I guess that they're kind of present, first person, positive, set of words that apply to you, maybe the person that you want to become, or perhaps the thing that you're working on, because it links to how what we tell ourselves in our mind and then what happens in our real world. So it's kind of connecting the dots so then you can feel like you've got some sort of control with what you're telling yourself daily, because a lot of the times if you wrote out what your mind's telling you on a daily basis, or even when trouble hits or you go through something, it's generally I'm not good enough, or like my life is so horrible, or the list goes on. I'm not worth it. It's too hard. I'm just gonna give up. I'm just gonna eat that. I'm just gonna do that. You know what? That person's right. They must be. Do you know? So a lot of those negative thoughts are what we hear every single day, and we might have heard that for 20 years, 50 years, 10 years, but that's a long time to hear those negative thoughts. So positive first person present affirmations allow ourselves, I think, some stepping stones to start change our mindset. And I know with a couple of girls I'm working with that this is something that they do as well. And I think that I just wanted to share how I structured mine this morning, and kind of like why I wrote these things down. I could write 100 things that are positive, but I feel like sometimes they really just need to be really related to what you're going through. And sometimes I feel like the first one on my list is I live with intent. And I think that at times I get dragged off with life, and at the moment I do feel like I need to really narrow down what it is I want to do when I get up, what it is I want to do, what I want to do with my life. So telling myself that I live with intent means that I'm not going to fluff around trying to do things that really aren't moving me forward. So I live with intent is the first one on my list today, and obviously it's first person I live, so it's now with intent. The next one is I have a divine purpose, and I think that's always seems to be on my list because I feel like I'm always destined for big things in life. But listening to Oprah Winfrey's Destiny YouTube clip on every day, she talks about everyone has a divine purpose. So I think just reminding myself that no matter what happens, that I have a divine purpose, and that never to forget that, I guess. So that's the second one on my list. The third one is I see it in my mind, and therefore I hold it in my hand. And I think this is a Carnegie quote in one of his books. I'm trying to rattle my brain what I've read, and a lot of people say it. Like a lot of my mentors say it, and it's really sticking in my mind. And I was just going through it really slowly this morning, and I was like, same with intent and purpose. If you start working on yourself in your mind, your life is going to start to reflect that. So positive, So, or if you've got a goal. So if you see that goal in your mind and you affirm that and you work towards it, those action steps will lead you towards it in your life. So I see it in my hand and I hold it in my, I see it in my mind and I hold it in my hand. The next one is I am brave. Really simple one. I think that sometimes I will tell myself I'm nervous, like the girl that I used to be, and I'm like, nah, actually I'm brave. So I need to remind myself that I've got this. I'm brave. Like, I've gone through a lot of stuff so I can get through the next thing. I'm true to myself. So I think like this is a pretty related one. I think for most people, we get dragged off with other people's. Even if if you're searching for advice, sometimes it's not the best thing because they're really looking at it from their mindset, not yours. So, staying true to myself is a really broad one that I have to think about. Is this me? Is this me making this decision, or am I listening to everyone else? Or, is the next step I've taken really true to my goals and what I want in life? So that's the next one. I make better choices with what goes inside my body and mind. And, it's really easy to go off the track with food and not reading and not doing affirmations and not being around good people. So I woke up this morning and I went to have my tabs, and I was gonna have them with crackers. I'm like, why would I do that? I went to the fridge and got carrots out, and I'm just thinking, make better choices. Like, this is not hard. This is just tell yourself that this carrot is going to be much better for me than those crackers. I'm going to feel so much better. And things like yoga, like making that choice to stretch my body and have a flow in the morning. So making those better choices and never stop doing that, because if you remind yourself to make those better choices, you're going to get better at it. So, and also your mindset. So what are you listening to? What's on the radio? What's on TV? Like, what are you putting into your mind, especially perhaps in the morning when you wake up? Like, what's the first thing you do? Is it Facebook? Are you looking at everyone else's life, or are you looking at your own first? So just making better choices is one of my affirmations, which the next one it links to. I read daily and take notes. So it's one thing to read and be lost in a world, and we all have those books, that we're taken off into this alternate world or an alternate reality, and we come back to our life, and it was a great book. But I think it's really important to draw the messages and the learnings from each, even if it's just a page or a paragraph. There's going to be so much in that that you can write down. So I do take notes when I read, but just to remind myself to do it daily. Next one, I reflect on life and each day by journaling. And oh golly, I'm having some tea because I need to wake up. It's better. So I reflect on life and each day by journaling, and I think every day we've got a chance to learn something new. It's not like that saying, the saying, you learn something new every day. It is so true. Like, we actually do. Whether it's, like learning that yoga is actually quite hard and I feel sore today, that, the way I spoke to someone or the way I spoke to myself, like reflecting on how I lived yesterday or in that moment, what it meant for me and how can I get better at that. So, and it's not about drilling yourself, it's really about just going, yeah, you probably could have done better, or I did really, really great at that, or, giving yourself a pat on the back as well. So the next one is, I am in a state of ongoing growth and personal development. So I think sometimes what I do is I give myself a hard time about, not growing, but I have to remind myself I am always in that state, and I'm affirming that, and I'm always working on my personal development. If someone says to me, you haven't grown, or, you haven't, you haven't gone through much, or, that's their opinion. But, I think to myself, well, no, I've actually been working on myself for a very long time. Since I can remember being probably 12, I used to get my little journal and I'd go sit in the garden and I would write, today, this is what I did. And, I would reflect on that. I would stay up all night and, or before I went to bed, I would go, so today was this, and, you know, it was a pretty bad day for me, but, you know, I would outwardly talk about the way the day went and how the people treated me or how I acted, and you know, I was always pretty aware of that. So I've been growing since I can remember doing that. So, and we always are, whether we're conscious of it or not is the difference. So being conscious that you're in a state of ongoing growth. I'm abundant. So I think, like, you know, I was reading or listening to this audio about abundance, and if you, he makes a really strong point that everything around us, if you look in nature, there's an abundance of trees, there's abundance of grass, there's abundance of flowers and bees and air and clouds. You know, there's an abundance of all the natural forms in our world, but do we see that in our minds? Do we see that we are abundant in what we need most in our life? So that's just a reminder that we're not too far different from nature, and we have it in us to be abundant in whatever we see fit: health, wealth, you know, positivity. I'm worthy of this life. And I think that's just a reminder to the purpose that I wrote at the start, you know, having a divine purpose. You're worthy of this. There's no one like you. You've just got to be you and take a hold of that and be proud and remind yourself that you're worthy of it. I focus on my breathing, and this is something I need to work on 100%, because even when I was in I did Zendu-kai when I was young. It was heavily about breathing and moving, and it was an art form. But I just couldn't tell my gut to breathe at the right times. And even in Pilates and yoga now, I'm doing the opposite thing, and I'm holding my breath, and I'm like, you know, I've got to teach my whole body again to breathe at the right times and breathe deeply and consciously. So that's on there. Yoga is a part of my daily flow, and it's been in my mind for so long to start. I've even got some free sessions that I haven't gone, and it's just, I've been watching these yogis on Instagram, and I'm like, I've got to do this. So it's about starting it and going with the flow. So that's on there. I never stop working on being consistent and the best version of me. So that's the last one I had on my list so far for today. But as I said at the start of my video, I'm always trying to work on being consistent, because it's one of the things that scares me. I feel like I'm going to get locked in and trapped, but it's not. It just means that I can grow a little bit each day. I don't have to kind of rush to the end, which is how I've usually functioned. So I'm never going to stop. Well, I never stop working on being consistent and the best version of me. So the best version of me, you know, it changes, but what I envision is that balanced inner energy, that balanced digestive system and mindset about life. And, you know, when ups come and downs come, that I'm not totally thrown, that I remind myself I've got a divine purpose and I'm living with intent, and you know, I read and I journal and I affirm that, you know, I'm worthy of it. So I'm always working on my best version, and if I fall off the wagon at times, that doesn't mean that I beat myself up. And I know a lot of my girls that I work with will go, oh, you know, I fell off, this is the worst, you know, I can't get back on. Trust me, you can, and you've just got to keep getting back up and going, this is my next step to being the best version of myself. So, you know, I hope this helped, you know, you guys today. If you are thinking about writing affirmations down, you know, hello from Kinda Sunny Echuca, and I hope you have a lovely day. Mwah.